The moment is here, you can stop your search. It's Comics by Perch.
Hey everybody, this is Perch. I've kind of made some of this point before. It didn't land, but we're gonna try again because why not? Repetition is a sign of wisdom and success. That's not how it works actually. But this is more of an observation. So this is one where your gut instinct might be to disagree, but please kind of let me make my case and then just think about it a little bit. The basic premise I have here is if you look at the fights, if you look at the angst between creators and customers or creators and fans, there's a major shift that's occurred in the last 6 years or so. And, lots of different things you could point to. But one observation I have, and I was talking about this with a friend the other day, is the cast of villains, if you will, is nowhere close to what it used to be. So using kind of a wrestling analogy here, you used to have some nice big heel factions that a bunch of people could get riled up about. Whether it was Tom King is being himself, or Dan Slott's angrily blocking and pissing on people and making fun of them. He was classic in like he'd attack somebody and then he'd block them and then he'd continue to attack them behind the block. And then every now and then he'd unblock them so he could like screenshot some more things to bitch about, and then he'd block them again. I mean, just childish. I mean, this is behavior that if you had a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old, you would say you're being a brat. I mean, a lot of this stuff is. You also had kind of your heel stable of you had Mags there, you had Vita kind of coming in there, you had kind of Vita's understudy Danny Lore in there. You had these people. And so it's kind of like you had, like in wrestling, you'd have your top heels, your top bad guys, and you have kind of your lower stable, and then kind of your opening card, your mid card, or opening match kind of stable. Be like, you have your way back, you have your NWO, which is kind of running things, and then you have whatever Conan is up to, and then you'd have, you just have these different variants of bad guys, and even if you go back like 8 years ago. Even your lower card heels in comics, you had your Max Bemis and your Gabby Rivera, and they're on Twitter like, screw everybody. And just, Cena Grace would run in with some commentary. I mean, there was a up and down the card, whether you were working on big comics and you're a bigger name, or lower comics, or you were kind of new arrivals to the scene, like say a Vita, or a Mags. You basically had a wide variety of heels to push against, to fight against. If you fast forward to today, it is there are very few. There's not the same amount, not the same volume of villains. The profile of villains is way diminished. I mean, you had people up and down the spectrum, no pun intended. Who you could rage against, and YouTubers could make video against, and fans could get outraged about. And again, I'm not saying not without reason. These people were largely going online and making jackasses themselves, or kind of to use your analogy, they're acting like a brat. Today, there's still some of that, but not anywhere close to as much. Now, granted, several people left Twitter. Or angrily said they would leave Twitter. They're still there. Or maybe they just blocked so many people. The behavior is still going on. It's just completely behind a wall. But a lot of those names have moved from, up and coming, again, to use a wrestling analogy, up and coming wrestlers on the card to maybe working the indies, or, not around at all. Does TNA wrestling still exist? By the way, that was cheekily total nonstop action wrestling, or TNA, which absolutely total coincidence with the other meaning of TNA. But is that still around anymore? Because I think the equivalency here is, somebody like Max Bemis, who was really trying to, did Moon Knight, very vocal on Twitter, inserting some of his Twitter adversaries into the comic as kind of Nazi villains. I mean, just very, really working to kind of, rise in that card, work his way up to mid card and upper card. And the comic didn't sell. And the editors, at least people I spoke to, were not amused by his shenanigans, and just it gets to this point where even if the editors agree, like these fans are assholes or their politics are wrong or any of that kind of stuff, there's one overriding factor to a lot of editors, and that is you're causing me to do work. I'm getting emails. I'm getting harassed on Twitter. I'm getting, people are shouting at me, and I'm on your side, but you're making me do work. Keep in mind, a lot of these people, a lot of editors will vocally complain about having to answer mail and get in the car to go get milk. These are not made up examples. These are real examples. There's an editor who went on and on a couple weeks ago about, I've just been eating my cereal in the morning, my box cereal dry because it's too much of a chore to go get milk. This is somebody who presumably lives in the New York area, although I don't know. DoorDash is a thing. I mean, you could just sit on your ass and have the milk delivered to you, but whatever. This is where a lot of these people are swinging. So if suddenly their life gets interfered with by a lot of noise and a lot of hassle, and like, hey, what's this guy in your book doing over on Twitter? Why is this going on? Again, even if they completely agree with them politically, it just becomes work. And when it becomes work, it's like, all right, the party's over. The music stops, bring out more chairs. It is why, and again, a lot of you hated this take, but it's true. It's why Teeny Howard gets a lot of work. Teeny Howard tends to be, non-controversial. It's when the thing cropped up, like a month or two ago, I don't know, whatever it was, of the artists complaining about Teeny Howard's scripts. And I talked to somebody in comics going, well, it's not really Teeny. It was other factors in this whole Gotham War thing. And some, the people who dislike the story. Now, I haven't read, the story yet, but, people are saying the story feels like DOA in a lot of ways. Who knows? You'll have to, maybe if it's out when this video comes out, you'll have to tell me what you think. But a lot of Teeny's friends kind of jumped in and started swinging and made a lot of noise. And the editor's like, yeah, this is not good for Teeny. Teeny's still being quiet, I think. I don't even, is Teeny even on Twitter anymore? Or Facebook? I don't know. But, any kind of noise is harmful. But regardless of all that, where's Max Bemis now? So he was there. He did a Moon Knight comic. He had a longer run. I mean, what's crazy is he had a run that, was pretty long compared to a lot of comic runs today. I mean, it went more than 6 issues. I think he's still doing comics, but he's relegated to the low card. He's in the equivalent. He went from the WWE. Writing Moon Knight would be like you're kind of you're in that first hour on Raw. You're opening match, but they're giving you some airtime. They're trying to figure out if you're an LA Knight or something that the Viking Raiders. You're trying to figure out where you kind of fit. And he's gone from a potential career in the WWE down to an opening match in TNA. That's doing kind of independent comics that are selling 2,000 copies or less is a downgrade. And this is where a lot of the villains, if you will, quote unquote villains, have gone. Danny barely has a career in the big two. Did a Punchline Nightmares comic that was absolutely dreadful. Don't know if there's more work. Haven't seen it. I'm assuming there was some more work in there somewhere, but this is a career on the decline. Vita, nowhere to be seen. Mags, nowhere to be seen. Again, every now and then crops up with a short story or something out of nowhere, but it's it's nothing. Here's Gabby Rivera. Cena Grace has a comic somewhere. I think I did something for Image, but I don't know. Just a lot of the villains of the past are gone. And so now what's happening a little bit is it's destroyed the whole ecosystem. I mean, YouTube their whole channels built up to really bitch about this stuff. And there's not a lot. I'm kid you not again. Saw a channel, decently sized channel. And the complaint is a video on Nick Lowe. Now, Nick Lowe says a lot of stupid things about Spider-Man and marriage and everything else. Nick Lowe made a comment of, well, if that's your opinion, so be it. That was his statement. That was it. Now, there's worse things he's written by far, but that was what he had written. And this person does an entire video on it going, this is not how you treat fans. Okay, again, I think good customer service is a good idea. And if you're trying to sell comics, you should do something more than, if that's your opinion, than fine. I mean, you should do more than that. But it gives, I mean, I just want to, we've gone from baseball bat to the teeth. And if I had the ability to drown all of these, these whack jobs, or I, you are stupid and I hate you. You don't get to buy my comic. That's what we went from there to if that's your opinion, fine. It's just hard to get passionate about that. That is not good. It's not like Hogan coming out and spray painting Sting. That's just that's weak sauce at this point. We are not at that same level of villains in comics. And so, yeah, it's definitely hurt the YouTube ecosystem. I mean, you in a good way, I think this is a positive development. You're seeing a lot more channels pivot to, hey, this comic story sucks, which, quite frankly, is a better way to go. It's better for them. It's better. I mean, that's now we're talking substance, or at least something a little bit, that we could debate about. It's getting a little bit back to the way it was. But you notice even the arguments. I did a post at one point. I tried doing a review, and the review was I don't think this is a good comic. It was a negative review. But in the review, there was nothing like they're attacking Trump, or this person is gay, or nothing along the lines of anything like that. It's like, this wasn't a good story. It didn't map to anything. It was entire comic based on social media. Like it just wasn't good. And I got mail from that, like, oh, you sound like one of those CG guys. And it's like, that's where we're at now. Of if you complain about, I think the story isn't very good, or the art isn't very good, now suddenly people are going to lob that complaint at you, but it doesn't stick because it doesn't make any sense. People are allowed to complain about things. It's very, if you're going after a particular creator, you can stir up a lot around that. When you're going after a story for, like, this is just not a good story, it's just harder. It's harder for that fight to exist. So that the oxygen is just leaving the room in this entire fight. So where does that all leave us? The point I want to leave you with is just, it's just an observation that the big time, I mean, today, there's just not the cast of villains to complain about that there used to be. I've seen people try and think, was it David Pepos and Charlie Jane Anders? There's just not meat there, unless you're complaining about the story. Charlie Jane Anders, that New Mutants Lethal Legion story was not good. You've got a character there that poops chocolate, or so. I mean, there's not. That's not good. Or transmutate things into chocolate, and was transmutating turtles' feces into chocolate. Like, I don't know. Like, look, it's a dumb story. But if you go and you Anders is nice. Like, it's hard to get pissed about. Like, you go there, and unless you're complaining about the story, and again, plenty of ways you could do that. Again, not a good comic, but the person is nice. They you can't just get in there and look at this asshole insulting the fans. They don't. It's just, I don't know. Have we turned a page? I guess is the comment for you. I mean, are we going into this new brave world where we're going to complain about substance? And bear in mind, I'm not defending creators who acted like a-holes 6-8 years ago. That was absolutely the wrong thing to do. It's not how you want an employee to act. I mean, granted, they're freelancers, but it's just it's self-defeating for the creator. And it's my observation, and it did defeat them. Vita would post insane, crazy things on a regular basis and go after every fan who was after Vita. Everyone is bad. These people they're unfair and they're not being persecuted, and like constantly. There's no comics coming out for Vita. Why is that? A lot of the very big, loud villains are gone. Dan Slott, for all of his antics, is not on the Made Spider-Man book, went on some other things. It didn't sell well, is trying to kind of get things moving with Spider-Boy and everything else. And granted, I that's probably more than he deserves in a lot of cases. The writing is weak. But and the new people coming in many cases are not writing better stories. A lot of the stories that I've read over the last years are terrible. But the people are benign. Is maybe the nice way to put it. I mean, it's a different environment. Not saying, hey, we're in a glory year for comics. It's just become different. No. I'm curious if anybody else has noticed this. Just at one point we had the Legion of Doom of villains in comics, and today it's like they're just not really around. I dislike hard what's going on in the X-Men. I am not a fan of what Jerry Duggan has done in the X-Men. I can't. What has Jerry Duggan done himself online? I mean, nothing. Very little. I don't know. There's not much there. There's not. You can't really go in and bitch about Jerry Duggan. You can say I don't like this comic, but I don't. I read this. I just started this Ghost Rider Wolverine crossover. It's not good. Like Ben Percy's writing that. It's not a good crossover. I mean, this is not a fun story. Well, okay. What's Ben Percy doing? It's not like we're not in 2016 anymore. It's just a different time. People are different. Anyway, curious what you think. Let me know in the comments below. We'll see if this lands, or people are like, but Perch, you're excusing their bad behavior. I'm always fascinated to see where people can take these points. Anyway, like and subscribe. Yeah, I'm still around. Thanks for listening.